Actually, a couple weeks ago, got this story about the China security laws, and this is not good news at all. So, mainland China, in secrecy, they drafted and passed a law that is supposed to be implemented on Hong Kong, basically prosecuting criminals in Hong Kong. It's very problematic because they've been trying to do this to Hong Kong for years with the extradition bill. So Hong Kong is independent of mainland China. Hong Kong is democratic. The rest of China is communism. Hong Kong was a British colony given back to them in 97. Part of the agreement for Britain giving Hong Kong back to China was that Hong Kong would be able to operate autonomously under the One Nation, Two Systems rule for at least 50 years. So from 97 to 2047, they'd be able to live autonomously of communist rule. So pretty much ever since then, they've been trying to have an extradition bill where they extradite criminals that committed crimes in Hong Kong to face punishing in China. And you can see where that's kind of conflicting. You know, you commit a crime in a democracy and then you face punishment in a communist state. So it's very problematic. The law's extremely ambiguous as to what constitutes things like subversion, secession, terrorism. If you have some type of foreign influence, they just don't really make the laws clear as to what would constitute those type of violations. And it's important to kind of make these things clear because they've made the penalty very clear. It's life imprisonment. So you can imagine how people in Hong Kong are feeling. And you have citizens, prominent Chinese Twitter citizens, deleting their accounts. You have anti-communist activists who have made political parties or groups just based off of their ideological differences to the mainland China. You have prominent politicians and activists and protesters disbanding and leaving the country or going into recluse. This is serious. They're not playing around with this. So in terms of how the rest of the world is reacting to this, the United States, they had a preferential trading agreement with Hong Kong specifically, and they ended that and instantly imposed sanctions on Hong Kong. They cited that, which is sad, Hong Kong has lost its autonomy. That's how the United States sees Hong Kong now. So Hong Kong is now officially a part of communist China, the way it looks. And sanctions, visa restrictions, the whole 9 yards. It seems like Hong Kong might retaliate. It's part of the course for a Trump administration. The UK, they've offered citizenship for citizens of Hong Kong, up to 3 million people, because clearly they've played a part in this type of situation, and they're taking responsibility in a way. They're like, hey, you were living under our type of rule, so if some of you feel compelled to move, I know this is your home, China's your home, but if you want to continue to live the way you live, then come to Great Britain, which is a nice gesture. I would appreciate that, just having that option. So I'm just really interested to see the next steps in this. So I would like to know how you all feel about it. I want to know if you all think this will happen in America, because there's people that are afraid of Bernie Sanders because he classifies himself as a social democrat. People that think of socialism, that are afraid of socialism, may make that jump from socialism to communism, and they'll think Stalin, they'll think China, North Korea, and they may think that's what Bernie Sanders is trying to implement here in America. So from that type of thought process, are you afraid that something like this would ever happen in America? Because we can at least still protest. they can't even protest in China. So that's huge freedom of speech violations. And I asked that question, do you think this will happen in America? But then you have to remember the Patriot Act, which is extremely violating of personal privacy. So yeah, like I said, how do you feel about this China security law? How do you feel about Hong Kong being strong-armed into mainland China? And yeah, how do you think anything like this would happen in America? So yeah, just let me know.